Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Salesforce Platform Developer. Today is day 2. My name is Olasade Anthony, and I'll be taking the class. So yesterday we looked into introduction to platform development, right? What does it entail? What is it about, right? Okay, Salesforce has given us a platform that we can use to do CRM and some awesome things we've been looking at for the past 2 months, I think. But right now, we are trying to delve into things that Salesforce are not giving us out of the box. Probably because they couldn't think of it, or because they couldn't do it, or because for any reason they are not provided out of the box. But like I said yesterday, in the realm of development, anything is possible. Anything you can think of is possible. So probably maybe if they had thought of a company called Black Force that would be using this team and things like this, they could have helped us to do it out of the box, put it there so that when Black Force comes, then Black Force can pick it. But no, they don't even know. Salesforce has been existing before Black Force came into the picture. So we want to use this thing. Salesforce don't provide it out of the box, but we want to use Salesforce. How do we go about that? That is where the role of developer comes into play. That is where Salesforce development now comes into play, extending the core Salesforce functionalities. Don't confuse things. It's not like replacing. You are not trying to, the things you could do with Flow, the things you could do with validation. It's not like you want to do them again. You can do them, it's fine. It's not even fine. You can do them, but don't do it. The things you can do with validation, don't start doing it with code. So it's not a replacement, but an extension, right? You are trying to validate some things, and you discovered, okay, you are trying to validate across multiple objects, which you actually don't have access to in your validation rules. Then you can pick up Apex Trigger, but don't use Apex Trigger to start validating if account has currency. If you create, or if account doesn't have currency, you should not create. No, you want to write it in validation. So it's not a replacement to the core Salesforce functionalities, but an extension. The things we couldn't do, the things that probably are hard to do that you've been trying to do, but you couldn't figure it out in with the core Salesforce functionalities you've learned, then you can now start using, okay, the knowledge you start gaining as from today to start solving those problems. Like the one I gave earlier, you're trying to validate something across multiple objects. You couldn't locate that particular object. You know you have it, but it's not showing up in your validation rule. Then you can write a trigger for it. You are trying to, I showed you, I gave an example yesterday of auth provider, right? I guess Google was working before Salesforce came, so they knew to accommodate Google sign-in, Facebook sign-in, Apple sign-in. But single login is just a new company, right? Probably in the next couple of years, we could partner with them and they could bring in single login into Salesforce, but they don't have it yet, right? So for that, you can start writing code to have your own single login functionalities auth provider in Salesforce. For Facebook auth provider, you don't have to write it again. It's already provided out of the box, right? So those are some of the things we talked about yesterday. Today we'll be looking at 3 things. 2 actually, but if we have enough time, we'll look at the 3rd one. But looking at developer console, like basically, I'll try and explain. I'll give the tools that I used, but for today's class, and I think for this week, we'll be dealing with developer console. In the subsequent classes, we'll start using the advanced ones. But where do you actually write this code? I don't know if you've done the admin and app builder, there's actually nowhere to, like, you shouldn't have shown you where to start writing codes, right? So where do you actually put these your own custom codes, custom functionalities? It's no more click again from here on. It's writing stuffs, right? This is what I want this to do when this is happening. This is no more click again. You type it, you put the instructions there yourself. So where do you put these instructions? That's the developer console. We'll look at it in a minute. The second thing we'll be talking about is data types. Like I said yesterday, we'll be using Apex, like the core Salesforce programming language for their backend is Apex. And I explained Apex yesterday. So if you need explanations, you can go through it and also go through the video and also go through the link I sent out yesterday. So Apex is a typed language, which means every variable or everything you are typing has a type, right? There is a string of name called Anthony. Now, that string of name called Anthony cannot tomorrow turn to 12 or integer of age, which is 12. Cannot tomorrow, that age cannot turn to Anthony tomorrow because Anthony is not a number. Anthony is a string. So the only thing that age can have is a number. So that's where type comes into play. Apex is strongly typed. So everything you are writing is typed. And if you're using developer console, as you are typing it, if you are making, I will show some examples. If you are using the wrong type for some things, you start getting your errors immediately, and we'll see that along the line. Then we'll go into variable, constants, and expression if we have the time. So let's dive right into it. Let's start with developer console. Now, how do you get to this awesome environment I just explained? On the gear icon, then you have developer console right here. Now, while that is loading, there are many places you can write codes. Or there are many places you can write your codes. You can put them directly on. Yes, I would like to use. You can put them in developer console right here. There is also the option of writing your Apex classes here. Go to setup. Look for Apex classes. Apex classes here. So I think there should be new somewhere around here. So you have new, and you can write your custom Apex code here, and you can use external IDs, development environment. Sorry. Okay. You can use external development environment IDs such as Visual Studio Code, right? If you're using Visual Studio Code, we'll set up Visual Studio Code when we get to UI. So if you're using Visual Studio Code, you want to install some, because Visual Studio Code is actually locally on your system, right? So you want to install some extensions to make it work to simulate the a Salesforce developer experience, right? You want to have a Salesforce developer experience on your Visual Studio Code. But for this class, at least for this week and probably next week, everything we'll be doing will be here. So I'll briefly explain what we have here. Everything just looks like whiteboard. There are a couple of panels here. There's this first panel, there's the second panel, and there's this other panel here. So basically, these ones you should be familiar with. There are things you see in almost all applications you use. You want to create new stuff, so you want to open stuff. So things you can do here, you can have your, Apex class, create a new Apex class, create a new Apex trigger. So it's actually not like all your other create, like, if you go to Google Sheet or Google Docs file, you can just click on new and, you get your new document and stuff. But here, you actually have to specify what you're trying to create, right? I need an Apex class. I need an Apex trigger. I need a visual force page. I need lightning component. I need and if you're opening also, let's say you've written some awesome projects, some awesome code, and you want to open it, you can just go to File, Open. Sorry if you're not speaking, kindly mute your getting the sounds. Okay, so if you want to open your stuff like what you've been doing before, you want to just check out some code, you can go to Open. Then the type of file you're trying to open, is it a class, is it a trigger, is it a visual force page, is it a component, is it static resources? So you can go ahead and just, I want to open a class, and I don't know, they have, this is a class, so stuff like this, then you open it. That's for files. And yeah, just basically go through the stuff here. Yeah, just the ones you actually need is this new, open, and we'll come back to this log in a bit. And there are a couple of things here. You also have open execute anonymous window, when like you can see this is actually not writable. You can't write anything here. It's not really a canvas kind of, but for you to write anything here, it has to be in a file. So let's say I create a new class, and I say, okay, contact controller, right? Okay, I have contact controller. Let's say workforce contact controller. So now you can start putting stores. But what if I just want to test out something? I don't really need a class. I don't really need a controller. I just want to test out a piece of code, a line of code, like what I was trying to do in my VS Code yesterday. I was just trying to show you integer, string. I don't really need a class for all those ones. I just need to like a scratch pad. So if you need a scratch pad, you go to the bulk and you click on open execute anonymous window. Here, this is like a scratch pad, so you can actually put anything you want right here. Integer age equals 12. And you're good to go without needing to create a class or create a controller, stuff like that. So that's the use of these open anonymous window. And you can also, there are a bunch of commands here. You want to execute the last command, the last function or the last yeah, the last function you you executed, you can do this. So there's test. We'll get into test. That's another stage. Or you have the tests, your test management buttons on the panel to workspace. You feel like creating workspace. I won't really go into much of these things. I think but I'll give you a link. I'll give you the trailer link to know much about the buttons, know more about the developer console. Now let's move to the next one. This is also a bit important. Now, for everything you are right, for everything you're doing, like everything you're doing, everything you're running, you get logs. Now, let's say I do this, I can actually say system the debug page. One other thing, Apex, when we get into it, Apex, I might just forget, Apex is not case sensitive. So age is the same thing as age. They are both the same thing. So execute, you see what happens. Yeah, you can say I got a log here. I got a log here. So everything you execute, you get logs, right? Depending on your log level, if you even do anything outside of your developer console, probably you do something from here. Let me see. But depending on your log level, let's see. Yeah. So, so yeah, you can see I got logs, getting logs. So everything you're doing are being logged. So you can come to your developer console and read your logs. There are ways you can go and log in your normal front end before, but right here you can also get your logs here if you know how to read them. So let's just look at what the one I did. This is it, right? The reason why it opened automatically was because I checked this open log. So if I execute this with this open, it's going to open the log automatically. And let's say you have, like I said, this is a scratch pad actually. So let's say you have like 5 lines of code and you only want these 2. Probably I have some other things here. String name equals Anthony. But I don't really want this to, let's say I also have system.debug name. I don't want this to execute. I only want this age to execute. I could just highlight this, what I need, and click on execute highlighted instead. So because the open log is checked, it opened the log. So there are a bunch of things you can read through, but I just need why debugged, which was 12. So there are a bunch of other things there, like variable assignment, summary of your, I'll talk about governor limits in a bit, but summary of what you've used and what you still have. But in your own case, I just want to check, do I still have 12? Yeah. So you can click on debug only here, only brings out the things you explicitly debugged, like you typed yourself. So this is where you get your logs. this is where you get your test result. When we get to test, we'll see more about this. Also, checkpoints, you can also use that for testing, but basically, log query editor, right? So this is one other thing you use that's common that you use almost everything. Query editor. This is where you put this is where you get data, right? You just want to briefly look at data. So just don't mind the things I'm doing right now. I know I've started writing some code, but don't mind the codes for now. Just follow me with the panels I'm trying to show you. I'm just trying to give you the result. Select the name. That works. Okay, so yeah, you get query. You are trying to query data. So this is where what I just typed is a SOQL syntax to get me accounts. But forget about, just leave this for now. This is still next week's topic. I'm just trying to show you can get data directly from your query editor. You type in your data here, there's an error pops up here like it showed up the other time. Then if it's successful, you get your result right here. So that's query editor. States, I don't, it's not really progress. It's not really. Another common one is this problem. Now, when you're dealing with class, yeah, close date. What was it? Black Force something, right? Black Force contact control. Yeah. When you have an error in your code, it shows up here in the problem tab. So you are trying to save your file. Once there's an error, the file will not save. I've pressed Ctrl S, you can see saving, but it's still not saved. This time means this file is not saved, which means there's an error. So if you're trying to save the file is not saving, then you know you have an error. You can check out for this red exclamation mark, or this will just give you an exclamation mark here, but you can come here and now actually get the issue. It's on line 2 and it's saying unexpected something. I know this is an error, so this is everything here is actually unexpected. So take it off and save. I should be good. Yep. Sometimes it takes a while to clear up. If you're sure what you typed is good, just save a couple of times. And if you still not going off, you can refresh the page, check your code again. But most of the time, you still have an error locking in your code. But once you fix it and it's still not saving, it's just, I think, network or something. But sometimes it takes a while like that for the errors here to clear up. Just keep that in mind. So that's developer console. In a bit, I'll drop the link for you to learn more about it in the chat when we're done. So now let's go into the next business of the day, data types. Now, before I go into the data types, there is something we were talking about yesterday here, multi-tenancy. Now, there's a concept in Salesforce called governor limit. Now, the whole idea of governor limit is this. Look at this house, for instance. There are a couple of rooms inside it. This is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is about 30-something rooms. They are using the same power supply. They are using the same water supply, right? Now, this guy here now decided to use his own room to start pure water factory. Probably they are pumping 50 liters of water every day for everybody. Then this guy decided to start a pure water factory. It will start production before everybody wakes up around 2 a.m. By the time everybody wakes up, there's no water again, right? Those are the problem of multi-tenancy. Now, how do Salesforce tackle these issues? Because the same thing I explained will happen in code. Because when you write a code, when you're running a function, you are using resources, you are using memory, you are using storage, you are using so many things, right? That are provided to you by Salesforce, right? You are making a query to their database, right? Let's say I run a code, that code that I wrote yesterday, let me write it again. This kind of thing, integer x equals 1. Then I say if x is greater than 0, then I'm now querying Salesforce DB. Imagine I do this, x, it will always be greater than 0 because x is 1, right? So x is always greater than 0, and I will keep on querying Salesforce DB like forever. This will actually be in a loop. That's still story for another. But just imagine I have this if in a loop that is saying if x is greater than 0, keep querying Salesforce DB, keep getting accounts. Now, one blockhead is just in one corner querying the same DB that the whole world is trying to query. The guy just, the person is just has a direct connection to the database and just locked up the database, and nobody else could do his own stuff for like 30 minutes, right? You don't want those kind of things to happen. That is where governor limit comes into play. Now, Salesforce governor limit now says gives Salesforce governor limit now gives you some restrictions, some boundaries. Like this is the number of SOQL you can run. This is the number of memory you have per day. This is the number of SOSL we give you per day. This is the number of DML you can run per day. So you get like, this is the number of minutes or hours you have direct access to our resources. So there are limits. This is not something I'm going to really teach you. Just always know there is this and have it. There are a couple of things. The number of SOQL you can run. Synchronous, we'll look at this later, but let's just deal with synchronous, right? 100. The limits count for each Apex transaction. This is per transaction. Like I explained transaction yesterday, right? It's just one particular invocation. Like transaction is like, let me go back to the developer console. Let's say I have a bunch of functions here in this file, in this scratch pad. I have a couple of things like about 1 million lines doing different things, and I click on execute. It's just one transaction. Like it's one invocation. It might now be calling different things, calling different methods, calling different other classes, calling the DB in different places, but it's just a transaction. Now, in that single transaction, Salesforce is now telling you can't do more than 100 SOQL queries. You can't get more than 50,000 queries, 50,000 records. and bunch of other things, SOSL, query locator, DML statement you can run. That's just the number of if size you have, the number of time you can lock up the number of milliseconds you can lock up the server, like the number of milliseconds you can keep a transaction running, right? So this is where, so it's just like in that house we talked about, they now installed meter. It's not even meter. It's meter with the added advantage that when you go above a particular limit, stops working. So the guy that opened a pure water factory, if they have 30 houses, 30 rooms, and there are 30 liters of water, by the time the guy uses 3 liters of water, he won't have water again. It just tells him that he has run out of, from the logs here. The logs just tells him, okay, guy, you don't have any more water again right here. So number of SOQL query, once it goes over 100 here, it can't go over 100. Once it's 100, you're done. Once your SL is over 20, you're done. It's just that same thing. There's a meter. Now, if I run an SOQL here, let's just see what happens. This is it. Don't mind this for now. It's just, I just want to show you the corresponding response. I'm trying to get account select ID name from you can see my number of queries is 1 of 100. The number of query rows I got is 10 because if you check what I did here, I said you should limit it to 10. So the number of rows I got out of 50,000 is 10. So there is a meter, right? Once you go over 100, once I run, let's say I copied and pasted this like 100 times, and I ran everything in a single transaction or 1 times, then it breaks. We can actually do something like that for let's see, let x was 0, x is less than 102, x plus see what happens. Integer integer x. Sorry, sometimes I might be mistakenly writing JavaScript syntax. Just don't mind me. Too many SOQL queries, 101. So it ran up onto 100, but as at 101 is telling me I have gone over the limit. So that's where governor limit comes into play. Kind of always note that. Don't anything you are running, put it at the back of your mind that you have a meter running. you are using common resources. Like I said yesterday, everybody's on the same server. Probably not the same server, but the idea is everybody is on the same server. We are using the same computer. So imagine 5 people are using your computer, right? And you alone is running, you are running like 5 different apps. You are playing 5 different CPU or GPU heavy games. Everybody else will just be looking at you. They won't be able to work unless there is a kind of division in place that, okay, if you like open 1 million games, you can't use more than 2% of the memory. You get? So that is what this limit user, this governor limit put in place so that people don't start running things like what I just did here. People do it, even if it's not for illustration purposes. There are some cases where you would want to do things like when you start working, you start eating limit and like real life limit, and you start seeing what they're actually talking about. So that's governor limits. Now let's go into data types. Before I continue, are we still together? Are we all good?
Yeah. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you said governor limit. So what happens when you hit this limit? Is there a way like you can do a reset, or you now go back to reset the counter, go back to 0? Or what do you do in the case where you've reached your limit? Like this, out of 10,000, on 10,000 now, you're on 10,000 out of 10,000. What do you do next?
Like I said, it's per transaction. I think there are 2 ways to your question. The first one is how do you run your second? How do I, like that thing I ran that said I'm out of boundary, I can still, like that one is done. I can continue my own work. That out of band is for that transaction. If I do another transaction that is not out of band, I'm good. So everything we are talking about is about transactions, right? The second way I think your question is going is what actually happens to that particular transaction. That transaction fails.
Okay.
So that particular transaction, this particular transaction that I deleted, it fails. If I'm doing an update here or probably create, everything fails unless I put some all or not. We'll see those when we get to DML. But the default way it works is once a limit is reached, that transaction fails. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, quite clear. Thank you for that.
So if that transaction fails, it doesn't affect subsequent transactions. Subsequent transactions still start from 0 back.
Gotcha.
Aside some, like it's not everything that is per transaction. Things like email, there are some that are per day. You have 1,000 emails per day. If you use it, you have to go and sleep and wait for the next morning to come. You get. Okay. So there are some limits that are per day. There are some that are per transaction, but I think everything here is per transaction. Everything here is transaction. Oh yeah, per transaction apex limits. Let me see. Do we have the other ones? Blah, 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 blah. Default timeout, there are some here, trigger batch size, and some things that also here. Yeah, you can just retreat the number of characters you can have in a class. You don't want to write a class that is 1 million lines long. It would not take it. So yeah, just read through this governor limit documentation. You get all the but most of the things you will you need right now this transaction-based apex limit. Is that okay? All good.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Great. Is there any other question? Okay, let's go into data types. Now, yesterday I said we have two major data, two kinds of data types, not really type, but kinds, like two groups of data types. We have the primitive data types and the non-primitive data type. Primitive is just simple, like simple data types. Let's see if there's synonyms for primitive and like this kind of. But it's just simple data types and complex data types. That's it. Primitives are simple data types. Non-primitives are complex data types. Like the example I gave yesterday, a primitive data type is something like integer age equals 12. It's direct. That's it. Age is 12. Name is Anthony. Even if it's Antonio last name, it's still just one string. So it's still a simple data type, still a primitive data type, right? But when you now start saying, okay, the school you went to, then you now need to start describing the school. Okay, you went to this place for secondary school, you went to that place for university, you went to this place for primary school. The name of his primary school is this, the town of his primary school is this. You know, things are now complicated. It's not direct again. It's not like name is Anthony. It's now one very complicated data that needs its own special analysis or its own special stuff, right? It's not simple again. So that's where non-primitives comes into play. But let's start with primitive data types. Now, the data types you will be looking at are actually things you're familiar with back in your admin days, right? They are data types you've seen in your admin days. If you go to field and relationship, go to new, and creating new fields. You see all these things there, checkbox, currency, dates, percents, URL, they are primitive data types. Does this make sense? You have a checkbox here. Now, let me bring up the primitive data types. You have string, you have integer, you have long, you have, well, let's pick them one by one, right? Let's say string, for instance. String is text, just any kind of text. String name equals Anthony, right? It might be short text, it might be long text, as long as it is text, right? And what makes us know it's a string is this colon. Is it colon or apostrophe? Yeah, apostrophe, right? This apostrophe tells us it's a string. Now, there is this there is this and there is this. The difference between this and this is a string. They are both false, right? But this is a false, as in the real false. But this is just a string, F-A-L-S-E. This is not F-A-L-S-E. This is false, like zero, off, not, negative. That is this. Let's say in a binary world, we have 1 and 0, right? 1 is true, 0 is false. This false here is this 0. But this false here is not, is a string. It's F-A-L-S-E. Same thing goes for true. When you wrap a true in in apostrophe, it is a string, not one, not true, not positive. It is a string. So always note that. So now, string, what's the equivalent here? You see all these ones, all these text area long, text area range, all these texts, they are strings. They will come out as string in your let's look for one that is text here. Take this, for example, account number, right? Now, I will just use something as an example here to show you errors. Accounts, this is equals, let's, account number. You don't need to follow that code for now. I just want to show you the things you actually have here. I want to show you the correlation between these data types and the data types you have in Apex, and what using a bad data type will show you from accounts. Remains one. So if I say integer count integer receive number equals this is dot account number. You see why I just want to show you what happens at this point. Tells me I'm trying to illegal assignment from string to integer. This is account number is a string, as we've seen from A, is a text, but text is interpreted as string when we get to writing the code. So I'm now saying I want to save that string into an integer. I want to assign that string. Probably the string is 1, 2, A, B, C, 4, 5, 6. And I want to assign that string to an integer. It's not going to happen. It's not going to collect it, except you change it to a string. So that's where it's not just when I said typed language, I think you should now start saying what I mean by Apex is a strongly typed language. This account number is a string. You cannot assign it to anything else. You can't do it. You can't assign it to a Boolean. It's going to tell you it's an error. But then if we pick it as a string, then we'll be good. Now turn is selected, execute everything. We're fine, right? That's where the knowledge of data types comes into play. If you don't know your data types and how they relate to your data types in your data model, you are going to struggle with data in development. So this is string. This is a string. This is a string. We have integer, let's say age equals 12. This is an integer, not just a number, an integer. Integer age cannot be 12.2. It's not going to take it. Illegal assignment from decimal to integer. They're decimal, they're integer, they are long. Let's go to data types. So first, data types. Yeah. So we're dealing with primitive data types. So we've seen a string, right? So the only thing that can go in this is a string like text. But string is actually a bit funny, right? These can this should collect 12. Yeah, it's still saying integer to string, so it's not going to collect it. So it's this. JavaScript is okay. JavaScript is not really typable, but even TypeScript, some other languages that are typed, you can still you can cast these like a number into a string. It's going, but obviously it doesn't work in Apex. So a string is a string. Whether it's a number, you still have to wrap it in this colon. So you have string, you have integer. This is not an integer. This is a decimal. This is now an integer. So if you want decimal, you can have decimal. Let's say height equals 6.5, right? This should work fine. Works fine. So continue. So you have string, you have integer, you have long. Now, long is actually a string, but a longer string, right? Once your integer is lesser than this, 2 raised to power minus 63. I think something like this value here, minus or plus this. If your string is longer than this, then it's no more. Sorry, I said string. If your integer is longer than this number here, 2 raised to power 63 or minus 2 raised to power 63, then it's no more an integer. It's a long. Same thing happens for decimal. There's decimal and double. Decimal and double. Once your decimal, like your points, the stuffs, the data outside your point is longer than 2 raised to power 63, then it's no more decimal. It's a double. So things like but number, for instance, let's say you want to save your phone number as even phone number will still work here. But let's say I don't know, you have a very long number, right? And you don't want to save it as a text. Probably it's not a text. You want to use it for calculation sometimes in the future. Then you use a long for it, not integer. It won't collect it. So you can see the minimum value of an integer minus 2. I think this is 1,000 million billion minus 2 billion to 2 billion. So anything less than this or larger than this, less than this meaning minus 3 billion or minus 4 billion, then you need to start using a long. And larger than this means 3 billion, 4 billion, then you need to start using long. So that's let's pick it from the top. Let's say we are actually some here. So we have string, integer, long, decimal, double. Boolean, I've talked about it, is true, false, is direct, true, false. So you have decimal. From here, you can also have long, which is equivalent to into a longer integer, and double, which is a longer decimal. You have Booleans, which is just true and false. Boolean, Nigerian equals false or true. These ones I'm putting, I still come to comments, but these ones I'm putting this // I'm just writing a comment. I'll still explain what comment is, but by now you should actually know what a comment is if you've gone through the JavaScript class. So I have Boolean. Boolean is just the question, is a yes or no question. Are you a Nigerian? Yes or no. Are you a liar? Yes or no. So that's Boolean. But it's not yes or no, it's true or false. Then we have date. We have date, we have time, we have date time. Now, dates, those, they follow syntax, a particular syntax, right? You have dates, you have date time, and you have time. A value that indicates a particular time. So let's start with date. If you go to dates, where's date? This is date. Now, some of these data types, as they are not really behaving, they are simple, they are primitive data types, but they are kind of behaving like complex data types also because they now have methods. And don't forget yesterday when I was talking of OOPs, I said Apex is an OOP language, right? It uses a OOP model, object-oriented programming. Everything we'll be doing revolves around object. And when we're talking of object, we're talking about the properties of the object and the methods of the object. Now, properties of the object, let's take a car, for example. The properties of a car is the color, the manufacturer, the engine type and stuff like that. Then we have methods, things like start. Start is a method, starts the car. You are doing something, is an action. Action, right? That's a method. Stop the car, hit the brake, change the gear. Those are actions, those are methods. So even though we said these things are not really complicated, these simple data types, they also have, some of them also have methods that we can use in manipulating them. Because you are trying to manipulate the car. You want the car to move, that's why you want to start it. You want the car to brake, that's why you are hitting the brake. Now, the date we want you to do something. That's why we now have date methods, right? So you have a date. Let's say today's date, for example, today is 28 03 2023, right? And let's say we want to get tomorrow's date from today's date. We can say add days, add 1 day, then we get tomorrow's date. Add 1 month, then we get tomorrow's month. We are performing an action on a particular data, right? We have a data, we have a date. Let's see. Right, correct date. So you have a date. This is going to give you, let's see what this actually gives us. System.debug. You see me writing system.debug a lot. It's used for debugging. If you've done JavaScript class, it's the equivalent of console.log. When you want to see something, I want to see my date. I want to know what the result of my date is. So that's why I'm using system.debug. And everything I'm writing at the end of every expression, at the end of every line is called an expression. End of every expression, you have a terminator. And it's compulsory. It's not like JavaScript. JavaScript also has a terminator, has the semicolon terminator, but it's not compulsory. I don't use it. But in Apex, it's compulsory. I think the only thing that they took for granted in Apex was that case. Capital letter H is the same thing as small letter h. Capital letter integer is the same thing as small letter integer. That's the only thing they are playing with. Every other thing is very strict. If you don't write the way you are supposed to write it, you are not going to get what you are supposed to get. You take this off, you get an error. Unexpected took in my date, right? So let's just bring it back and execute highlighted. So what do I get? The bug. I get 1960-02-17, and I still get the time, but not you can't set the time directly from that date instance. So it's just the time you get. So that's dates. But before we go into the methods, let's just see the other examples. We also have date time. Date time. Date time is a combination of both dates and time, and you can also use that to, you can use it to manipulate the time also. But in date, you can see in your dates methods, there is nothing like time manipulation. This is add days, add months, add years, day of the year, days between, days in year. All these are just comparison of dates. There is nothing like time. But now if you come to this, you start seeing things, minutes, milliseconds, hours, gets time, right? And our normal month and days and stuff. So that's, you might think, okay, why do I want to use date time when the date will actually give me the time, right? The reason why you would want to use date time is for manipulations. The methods you have for each one of them is different. If you use dates, the only method you have access to are date methods. Like the least thing you can manipulate is the date. So you can manipulate day, you can manipulate weeks, you can manipulate months, you can manipulate years. But for date time, you can manipulate things starting from milliseconds, seconds, minutes, hours, what do you have as hours? Days, weeks, months, year, right? So that's why you would want to, those are the things you consider when you are picking a data type. What do I want to use it for? The particular variable, what do I want to use it for? Will I be thinking of, let's say you are building an app that is going to have a clocking system. You can use dates for that. You have to use dates time, because the clocking, you want to mark that the particular time that person is clocking in, the time of the day, right? So those are some of the considerations you want to take when you're dealing with date time. So I'm going to say date time. See the difference. It's the same thing, but you can't manipulate the time for this. It's not valid. This is not valid, right? This is not valid, because the only thing, the level we can reach at this point is the date level. This is year, month, day. We can't, outside that, we can't do any other thing. Year, month, day. That's all we can do here. Then for the date time, we can go as far as dealing with hours. This is year, month, day, hours, minutes, seconds. Let's see. Do we have milliseconds? 2, 4, 6. No. So let me see. It's time. A value that indicates a particular day and time, such as timestamp, always creates dates, time, values with a system, static method. You can add or subtract, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you don't, well, you can get milliseconds out of it. You can add milliseconds into it. This is a return the milliseconds component of it. Basically, one place date time is used is for timestamp. One common place it's being used is timestamp. This particular these fields, last modified dates or created date, they are timestamps and they are date time. If we go to, let's see, last modified, last modified, all the system generated fields, where they're not showing up there. Create custom object. Okay, they're just the bytes that are showing up. Or if you query last modified at I'll if you're using Google Chrome, this is one inspector app. Sorry, this is one extension you can install, Salesforce Inspector, just to do some things. Let's see. Okay, so if you I want to last view date, time, last modified date, time. You can see them. Created date. I think is it created date? Yeah, created date. They are date time. So they are actually timestamp, right? But they are date. Those timestamps are date time. So when you are dealing with things like clocking, you want to use a date time, not date, because if you use date time, you get access to everything. You get access to the date, the year, the month, the date, the hour, the minutes, the second, the millisecond, right? So you get things, you get the particular time that person clocked in. So if the person clocked in 7:59, 59:59, the person is still early, even though it's showing it o'clock. So that's date time. There is also time. Time somewhere right there. Time instance. Time instance is just hour, minute, second, millisecond. That's it. So So that's okay. So time, hour, minute, second, millisecond. So that's your time. So you have dates, dates, time, dates. The only thing you can touch here are these three. Dates, time, you can touch everything. Like you can manipulate from the year up onto milliseconds, but for time, you can only manipulate the hour and the hour up onto milliseconds. Yeah, you have IDs. Now, IDs are source for specific. They are source for specific IDs. They are either 15 characters, 15 or 16, 15 characters or 18 characters ID. Valid 18, but yeah, 15 characters for old IDs, right? I think classical. So there are some objects that are actually using 15 characters, but it's actually 18. Most of the common IDs you see now are 18 characters. They are these, like for every record, they have an identifier. This is it. If you count it, it should be 18, and if I want to do that, my eyes is not really. So it should be 18, either 18 or 15. Anything outside 15 or 18, it's going to tell you is an invalid ID. So if I do something like this, ID, opportunity ID equals, now, I don't know if you grabbed, what I'm doing here is this, the data type, the variable name, and the value. The data type, the variable name, the value. The data type is ID. The variable name is opportunity ID or anything I want to call it. I can call it Tony. You can call it anything you want to call it. Or I'm calling it opportunity ID. The data type, the variable name, and the value. Opportunity ID is something. It's just going to tell me invalid ID. It doesn't exist. That's not an ID. It's a string, right? ID is a string, or a string that follows a particular pattern. It's so specific. It's system generated. They are system generated IDs. So a valid 18 character Lightning platform record identifier, things like this. If you set IDs to a 15 character value, Apex convert it to its 18 character representative, and invalid ID value are rejected with a runtime expression. So that's that got. So let's see if we can actually generate. This is 4, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's see what happens to this. While that is doing its own relate, so let's continue. we have objects, right? So object is a generic data type. It's a generic data type actually, not just for primitive, not just for primitive. Is an unlabeled bucket. Anything goes. So an object is used when you don't actually know what you're collecting. let's say you are querying data from Black Forces API, right? Salesforce doesn't know yet what kind of data is coming in. You yourself might not know. Let's say I just gave Abskenki the API and I say, okay, these are the fields you'll be. I might not even tell him the fields he will be collecting. I just say, this is the API, API teach slash APIs dot slash programs. That will give you all the list of programs. Now, you don't know the values, right? There are names, there are program names, but you are the only one that knows. You might not know, right? So if you had gone ahead and say, okay, Tony's ID should be an integer, and I'm using string, that causes problem for you in your own manipulation. So for things like that, data you don't know, you use objects, both primitive and non-primitive. They will enter the object data type. Don't just use it. It's tempting. It's tempting to use. You can collect. Tony said you can collect anything. Then you name all your variable as objects. No, it will down the line when you start manipulating, you see that it doesn't work because say you say something like objects clock in time. You use object for clock in time. You can't use all these classes, all these methods. You can't use it on an object. You can only use this method on a date time. You can only use this method. Where's the method? You can only use this method on a date. So if you have set that clocking time as an object, you don't get that advantage. And you can't even save, let's say we are trying to collect the data from Black Force and like those programs, we want to save it into Salesforce. After you've collected them as an object, you still need to convert those objects. You need to cast them into what Salesforce will collect, into the Salesforce specific data type, right? If your data type if the data type of your name in programs on Salesforce is string, you need to cast that field that I'm giving you from the API. You need to cast it to a string. You will actually have it as an object first. Then you need to cast it to a string before you can save it. So because I said it can collect anything does not mean you should use it for anything. It will mess things up for you. You only use it in specific scenarios, right? When you are dealing with data you don't know anything about. But every other thing you will be doing inside Salesforce itself, you know them. You are the one that created them. Even if you're not they are system generated, you know that timestamp is date time. These are things you're familiar with. And if you don't know, just go to install this extension, this Salesforce Inspector in your Chrome, and check out the respective data types here, right? So let's move on. So that's object. Object to, let me show you, object to actually collect anything. Objects n equals Anthony works fine. Object name equals policy. Works fine. Object name equals false. Works fine. If you've used anything other than object and Boolean for this false, it would have told you. So it's going to throw you a runtime error. So, but objects is the mother of everybody. When we get to non-primitive data types too, you can also use objects for non-primitive data types also. So that's there are a couple of more. There are blobs. These are for blobs are actually for attachments for files. When you files, right? All these let me see. What do I have files here? So, yeah, most of these things, like the content of this particular file, will be saved as blob. Inside blob are just a bunch of strings, very complicated strings, but they are just files. Actually, they are used to save files in Salesforce in database actually. So they also have methods, so you can go to the method and see them. So done Boolean, date time, decimal, double, ID, integer, long, object, string, and time. So that's primitive data types. Now let's go into non-primitive data types. Like I said, non-primitive data types are complicated data types. But before I go into that, do we have any question? Are we still together? Are we still good? Yeah, I did.
Okay. So, my question is, maybe you have to go back to that developer console so I can explain better. Okay. So my question now is, you're writing codes on this scratch pad now, right? And you're executing. But where are we seeing the output? Where are we seeing the output of this?
I'm just not opening them, right? Let me take this off. Let me close all this. Close all tabs. Yeah. Now, if I execute something here, see this, for example, execute highlighted. If you notice something happened here, something happened somewhere around here, something happened here.
Yeah, I see success.
I told you about log the other time. This is where your logs comes to. So if you're on the log panel, you get this new log on red. Then double click on it. It's going to open up. There are a bunch of texts if you feel like reading them. And if you just want those things you consoled, like those things you debugged, there's line 6, line 8, line 10, then I can say debug only, then I get them.
Okay, so fine. So this now does not affect the front end. There's nothing like, there's no way we are seeing it on the front end.
No, this is just me in my developer world. Doesn't affect anything right now. Although things you do here, if you are doing real work, if I save an account from here, you will see that account in the front end.
Okay, so that's what I was going to
yeah. Even though it's a scratch up, like even though it's a scratch pad, if I do a save, like the account I collected here is a real account. It's a very real account, a valid account. If I create an account inside the scratch pad, it will go and create.
Okay, so are we going to get to that stage, or
No, we're still going to get into SOQL and DML, but let's just be familiar with the things we are doing. That's why I'm saying don't really take note of these ones I'm writing here. It looks like gibberish right now, but I'm just trying to show you what I was showing at that time was this was a string in the database in our model. it must be a string here. You can't use a number. So everything you're doing here, everything you did here, what am I doing? Setup. Count. Everything you're doing, you see here as a corresponding data type. Checkbox, checkbox is click or unclick. That's true or false. That's a Boolean. Checkbox is a Boolean. Currency is decimal. Date is date. Date time is date time. Email is a string. Geolocation, I don't know what they are saving inside. It might be a string or something. I don't really know what that is being saved. Number is complicated in the sense that you have to go into it before you know if it's an integer or a decimal. Right now, this number is an integer. But then if I increase this decimal place, then it turns to a decimal. You get? Then we have percent. Percent is also either a number or is either an integer or a decimal. Your phone would be a string, should definitely be a string. Pick list is enum. We're going to get into that when we get to non-primitive. Pick list is a enum, same thing for this. Text is string, all these text are string. URL is a string, time is time. You see we've covered everything here. Auto number is a string, depending on what you say you want to use. Yeah, auto number is actually a string. Starting number, because you can have text. It's not just number that you can take, it can also take text. So auto number is also a string. But this ID, like this, okay. Sure. Let's go to the other one. Sure. This ID looks like a string, but if you want to use it for something important in the future, you might want to just save it as an ID, not a string. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. It looks like a string is a string. If you put it in a string, it will work fine. But if you will be using it for some query in the future, ID equals something, then you want to save it as an ID. It doesn't take you anything. So how did I get here? So that's log. You get a log from here. Everything you're doing shows up here. Even the things you're doing in the front end. If you create anything here, you're going to get a log here. Once this is open, once you open this place, everything you are doing as from here on will be showing here, depending on your log level though. I think we can see log level from here. There are different log levels, info, finest. You can actually, these are things you can do on your own. Pick each one of them. They are just the kind of things you see in your, the kind of things you see in your message, how bulky you want to be, because there are some things that are still happening that is not showing up here, or how you just want to show some particular thing, not really all these things that you won't really read. So you can manipulate that log level from here, particular log level, right? So that's log. Now let's go into non-primitive data types. Like I said, they are complex data types. First, The first one of it is collections. Collections is like the name, group of data, right? Group of data. A basket of basket of apples, apples, basket of orange. That's a collection, right? Anthony's property. That's a collection. Anthony's property in the sense that we are not just requesting for the name of Anthony. We are not just requesting for the age of Anthony. We are saying, who is Anthony? Right? That's a collection of data. We want to know the name, we want to know the age, we want to know the height, we want to know this thing, do that thing, his country of residence, the kind of work he's doing. We want to know Anthony. That's a collection of data. You get, in a basket of oranges, we know everything inside the basket is orange. Yeah, fine. Everything in the basket is orange. But the orange might the individual orange might be different. Some might be ripe, some might be unripe, some are small, the sizes are different, they have different properties, but it's still orange. That's a list. I will still go into them one by one. I'm just trying to give you an overview of what each of them is. That's a list, a basket of the same thing, basket of orange. But then when we now say properties of Anthony, we want to know Anthony. Who is Anthony? Anthony is 6 foot or 6 feet. Is a female. Is 12 years old. Is in Nigeria. Is this? Is that? Is all those properties? Then we're talking of a map. It's what you call object in JavaScript. That is object in JavaScript. You remember JavaScript, right? Let me see if I can pull up my developer console. I'm sorry. Well, I can actually do it here, but this is in Apex. This is JavaScript. When you have something like this, const Anthony, right, equals name is, let's say, first name is Anthony, last name is last day, age is 12, height is F4. This you know, we're having, we're not just talking about Anthony's name or Anthony's age again. We're talking of Anthony, like everything about him. We want to know him. So this in JavaScript is called an object. But in Salesforce, in Apex, it's called map. It's called map, right? In JavaScript, you have an array. JavaScript, you have array, const basket of fruit, basket of fruit, or students IDs, things like that. Then you have something like this, apple, 12. That's one thing about JavaScript. 12 is not a fruit, but you can still add it. It's not even a string. But we'll come to it. I'm just trying to make a note here. We'll see the difference between this and that of Salesforce. Apple 12, false, orange, right? This is an array. A basket in a basket in JavaScript can have anything. Can have a string, can have a boolean, can have a number inside the same basket. But in Salesforce, in Apex, your basket can only hold a particular type, except it's a basket of objects. Don't forget objects. Objects in Salesforce can hold anything. So if you declare a basket of objects in Salesforce, then your basket can hold anything. But if you say you have a basket of string in Salesforce, the only thing that basket will hold is strings. Strings is string. If you say you have a basket of number, the only thing that basket will hold is number. If you say you have a basket of booleans, the only thing that basket will hold is boolean. We'll get to it in a minute. I'm just giving you overview. Set is almost the same thing as list, but the difference between a set and a list is while in a list you can have Anthony multiple times, Anthony, comma, Anthony, comma, Anthony, comma, Anthony. In a set, you can't have that. It will pack everything as just one Anthony. Let's say you have an array, like this. You have an array, Anthony, 12, Anthony. At this point, the length of this is 3. This is an array. Array with a length of 3. But for a set, this is a set of just 2 because Anthony and Anthony are the same thing. Set holds unique values. You can't have duplicates inside a set. You can only have unique values. But for arrays and lists, they can hold duplicates. Like you can have Anthony as many times as you wanted. So now let's start with collections. If you go to the manual, close all these ones up. There are multiple ways of declaring a list. Right? A list is this is index. List okay, one other difference between a list and a set is lists are indexed, like they are numbered, kind of. You know where everything is, just like this example I have here. You know that the first thing in our array is Anthony. That's index 0. Index 0, let's say name equals Anthony. You can say name 0 equals Anthony. We know that name 0 is Anthony. We know that name 1 is 12. We know that name 2 is another Anthony. For sets, just imagine we say for sets now. Let me even rearrange this so it can be interesting. Name 0 is Anthony, name 1 is Anthony. Name, finish that. Finish it. name 2 is now 12. This is an array. But if this had been a set, name 0 is Anthony, fine. But name 1 is not Anthony. Name 1 is not Anthony. Name 1 is 12. So that's why it's a bit different. These are indexed, but these are not indexed. Indexed just means numbered. Like arrays are numbered, kind of like they're mentally numbered. But sets are not, because it will analyze it and rearrange it accordingly. Once there's a duplicate, takes it off, rearrange the whole list. So that's why this is numbered, this is not. So on arrays, you say things like index, but on lists, you say things like index. On sets, you don't say things like that. So that's what they are trying to do here. Now, when you're dealing with non-primitive data types, like I said earlier, they are complex and complicated at the same time. Remember, your non-primitive, you could easily just say string name equals name equals Anthony, right? But for an array, for a list, follow along, string names equals new list of string. Now, yeah, just to declare a variable. You can see the difference between this, and we've not even supplied value to this one. We've supplied value to this one. If we start supplying value again, start getting longer, either to the right or to the bottom. So it's complicated and complex at the same time. Like the declaration of it is complicated. The data it holds is complex. So for you to declare a list of variables, you have a list of strings. So what we are saying is names here will only be holding strings. You can't add an integer. You are trying to add an integer to a list of string. You can't do that. The only thing this list will hold is a string. Now let's put some stuff inside it. So we have list of string, we have list of names, we have Anthony. I'll just do copy and paste here. It's a basket, right? So we can put stuff inside it. Add, this is a method. Now let's go to list. Lists method, yeah. That's it. Okay. Wants to connect it. Yeah. What's going on? Okay. So lists, like all those date time that we're dealing with the other time, list also has a method. It has like not a method, it has methods. You can see them, bunch of them. But the common one we'll be dealing with is add. Will still be, but the first one we want to look at is add. We want to add stuffs. At this point, we have an empty system.debug names. We have empty list. But let's start adding stuffs inside it. Anthony, Paul, Sammy, and Anthony. Then we say system.debug names. Execute. So what do we get? Get Anthony, Paul, Sammy, Anthony. So that's a list of string, right? So there are different ways of declaring it. This is another one. String of names equals new. This was sure. No. So you have to use the normal declaration list of string. The one place where this shines very well is when you are querying data from, let's say you are querying accounts, list of accounts, then you can say list of accounts and just do your query. But if you're still doing this, you will still have to put your normal instantiation in front. So that's one. This is one. This is another one. Then if you want to load data directly, instead of adding, you can actually put data directly into your list at the point of Anthony or you're still going to get the same thing. Let me debug it so you see. The bulk names are made execute debug only. So you get Anthony, Paul, Anthony. So it's still, you can either add, this add is a method, is a list method. Is a method on list, or you can just put your data directly in your stuffs. So let's look at another method. We've looked at add. Also, you can add to a particular index. We said list is indexed. Like if you can say names 2. What should names 2 be? 0, 1, 2. Names 2 should be Sammy. Let's take it one by one, right? Names, then system.debug names 2. So let's see what names 2 gives us. Okay. Is fine. So we have our names and we have names 2. We have this first one, which is the first names here. Then we have names, which gives us everything. And we have names index 2. This is index 0, index 1, index 2. So index 2 is Sammy. So you can get your stuffs by index. Now, the same way we can get stuffs by index, you can add stuffs You can add a particular stuff into a particular index. You can add value into a particular index. At this point, we know that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 values inside our names, right? Of index 0 to 4. We can actually, instead, if I add something else, right? If I say names dot add someone, right? It's going to add it at the back, like at the last. It's going to add it at the back. It's there at the back, or like it's going to be the last. Someone, right? But what if I want to like put the someone between Sammy and Anthony, right here, index 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. I want to put it at index 3. I could do something like add at index 3, comma, someone. Names dot add at index 3, comma, someone. Let's see what we get from here. Anthony, Paul, Sammy, someone, Anthony. This is next 0, 1, 2, 3. That's adding to index. You can I won't really go through all these things. I will just go through the common ones. There is clear, like you want to remove everything in the list. Names, so clear. It's gone with a clear method. Let's see. You have clone. We can use it to make a copy of a list. You have contain. This is one common one too. Contains, you want to check a list if it contains something, right? You want to check, can you leave that place? You want to check if your list, you have this list, you want to check if the list contains someone, contains someone. Definitely will find out. Someone. You want to debug that, it doesn't, it just gives you true or false. So you want to either say Boolean. If you check the implementation of contains, you see that it has a return. All these ones we're doing before, they don't really have a return. They don't have a return type. Return type is void. But if you check, like all these things, you can click on them, right? And see how to implement them, see examples. This is what you collect. This is the parameter. Parameter is what you put inside it. And this is the return value. Return value is the equals to here. They are saying add does not return anything. It just manipulates the original data. It doesn't return. There's no result for it. But here, for contains returns something. It returns a Boolean. We want to know if it contains it. So try and get that. Some method returns a value. Some do not. Add does not return anything. It only manipulates the original value. Everything we've been doing here we are not really saying, we are not really assigning to anything. We are not returning anything. If you do this, you'll see that what you get is, let's say, string arity equals this. Either it gives you a runtime error or system.debug because it's void arity. Let's see what we'll get from here. Yeah, it's saying, okay, we can actually see object because it's not really a string. It's undefined, like it's void. It doesn't return anything. So I just want to show you what comes up. What happened? Yeah, where there is no, nothing was returned. But that's not the case for contains. Contains return something. Now, to know what is returned, you can just go to the method, click on it, and check the return value. The return value is Boolean. So when you are doing your work, what you want to have is Boolean, I don't want this anymore. Boolean, give it any name. Name exists equals that. Is a Boolean. You don't have to like cram these things. Just know where to get it. Developer.salesforce.com and just type it on Google. List methods. You definitely land here. This is it. Always add Salesforce. All right. Salesforce. See, list class. That's it. Yeah. So contains says it returns a Boolean. Now let's see what that Boolean is. Does our names contain someone? Let's see. Let's find out. Let's system dot debug name exists. True. We have someone. Now let's check for something else. Let's check for Babatope. False. So what you get from that is true or false. We are checking this list for a particular value. That's one common method you use always. Also, you can also get like the way we did that index 2, this index 2 here. You can also do names.get system.debug names.get index 2. You get the same answer. So you have clear clone, the clone. You can check out, you can use any of these things one by one. There's also index of. Index of is to give you the index of a particular element, right? Okay. I know I have Sammy, right? I know I have Sammy, but I want to use the index of Sammy. I probably have about 1 million data, 1 million names, and I can start looking for where Sammy is. I can just do something like give me the index of Sammy. Names dot index of Sammy. This also returns something. it doesn't return void, it returns a particular value. So if you go to index of, we say it returns an integer. So you want to assign that. You want to do something like integer, Sami index equals that. Then you can now say, give me system, show me what it is. System.debug Sami index. Two. So this is 0, 1, 2. Yeah, correct. So that gives you the index of Sami. Is empty. You want to check if there's anything in that name. Remove the same way we can add to a particular index here. You can also remove Sami from index 2, like remove it. Like you don't want to clear the list. You want to remove something, that thing that is on index 2, you don't know it, right? You want to remove an element at index 2. So if I go here, if I come here and say names dot, it doesn't return anything too. If you check it, it won't return anything. Just doesn't really return anything. Just removes, is an action. So names dot remove from index 2. So if we check our names again, system.debug names. This is 0, 1, 2. So what we're expecting is for Sami to have disappeared miraculously. So Sami is gone, right? So that's removed. You can see these things are actually, they are, the people that wrote them are English people. They are not they are not Australians. They wrote them in English. So from the English, from the names, you know what it does. Set into an index. This is like set something into an index, set the specified value for the element at the given index. So I can say the same way I was doing add here. Now, what happens here is that it doesn't add. If I have 5 elements before, if I do add to a particular index, I will have 6. Or if I do set, I will still have 5. What happens is it will replace Sami by the new stuff. This is an example. Where is it? Is there an example? Yeah, set index 0 with 47. Set index 1 with 52. So if index 0 had been 12 before, index 0 will now be 47, which means we won't have 12 again. It replaces it. Add, we add. So if the length of your array before was 10, when you add, it becomes 11. When you set, it stays at 10, but something has changed. Something is lost, another thing is in. That's the difference between add and set. Sort, you want to sort by ascending or descending order according to probably character values, right? So if I sort this ascending, all my Anthony will go to the top, then I have Paul, Sami, and someone. If I sort descending, then I have Sami, Paul, and all my Anthonys. And to string, if you want to just flatten the array, right? Does it return anything? Returns the string, yeah. So you can say string flattened equals names dot to string. Then system dot debug flattened. It says something here. I'll just use this to round up today. System dot debug names. Where is it? Tell me. This is 21. Time for E. Latin to string. What is up there? Returns the string. When using a cyclic reference, the output is truncated to prevent infinite recursion, blah, 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 blah. Let's go like that. Returns the string representation of the list. Okay, what we can do is type of, there is actually no type of, but this at this point, although it's still looking the same, this and this is still looking like the same thing, but this is no more a list. You can see like my line. Let me just delete this so I can have the line numbers accordingly. Now, my line 21, my line 20 is a string. My line 21 is a list. The names is still a list, but the flatten is a string. They look the same, but where things get complicated is that even though this thing is still looking like a list here, you can't do flattened dot add is not going to work. Not that. Oh, it won't work. Even though the end result is the same thing, this is now a string. It's no more an array. It's no more a list. It's no more a collection. It's just one tiny long string. But this is a collection of strings. Names is a collection of strings. But flattened is just one string. Everything like this is just one. Like everything on this line 20 is just one. But this is still 5 different strings. Do we get that? Do we get that difference? Hello?
Yes.
Great. So your names, even anything that returns, that has a return value, this, and this, they don't really affect the original data, right? You can say I still have access to my name is still working fine. If I still do names dot add another, yeah, that's okay. This will still work fine. That will still work because I still have my original data, even though I've done something, but I didn't do it to it. It returned its own a new data. So my names is still my names. Like it's still an array. It's still a list. But flattened is like another variable entirely, is another thing. So flattened is a new object, a new data. And sometimes this, there are some conversions that this will still be probably an array, but flattened is different from names. This manipulation here does not really affect the name. We are just, is a reference. We are just taking, okay, borrow us what you have in that name and use it to do something, and you're done. But you see all these ones that don't return anything, they are manipulating the original data. Do you get the difference? Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Great. I think we are way past the time. Is there any question? Do you have any question? Does anybody have any question? Okay. Before we go, I know we've started writing some things, so I want to find out, are we lost or are we still together? Please, everybody, open house.
Okay. For me, it's a little bit. Can you hear me?
You are a little bit lost.
Yes, because it still goes back to my previous question. Like all these codes you're writing now, I'm looking at a situation, something like HTML now. When you write code in HTML, immediately you see the outcome, the output of that code that you've written once you execute it. But yeah, now I'm trying to understand. All that you're showing now, is it just that, okay, so we are aware of the syntax of Apex. We are not really concerned about the effect per se, because once you execute this code now, all I just see is on this log page where you see the output, but I'm not seeing the effect on the front end. I don't know. So that's a little bit confusing for me.
We are not affecting anything yet. It's still from your first question, the HTML stuff. HTML is a front end language. Like you type it, you open your browser, you see it. When we get to UI, you see stuff like that. But here we're actually dealing with backend, but we are not even there yet. I'm trying to show you what you will see when we get into backend data manipulation. That was what I was first trying to show you here. No, I've cleared it. When I queried account, right?
Yeah.
That I collected that data from my database. But when I get that data, how do I get the properties? Okay, I've gotten an account. How do I get? I've gotten, let's say I query opportunity. We are not in query yet. That's still probably next week's work. But we need to understand that when we get those things, how do we deal with them? How do we get this date out? That is what we are trying to do today. This date right here is a date variable, is a date data type. So if I need to collect this, I need to collect it into a date variable. That is everything we are doing today.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does actually.
Yeah. So doing stuff and seeing it in the front end is still next week, but things will get very serious, very, very, very complicated next week. But to break things down, if you understand this concept, next week will be easy. If you understand the list, you know that we'll query our data we'll query a list of data from a list of accounts from our database. We are going to save it inside list, not inside string, not inside number, not inside integer, not inside booleans. We are going to save it inside lists. And when we need the properties of a particular account, OPP1. When we need the properties of OPP1, we get those from map. All these things, all this data, all these fields, they are maps. We will get to maps tomorrow. But if you don't know that, you just create it, you won't know what to do with it. You won't even know where to create into. That is what we are doing this week.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you.
Great. All right. Do we have any other question? Things will start making sense next week, but I need you to follow me. I need you to follow along this week. This week will determine a lot of, if you don't get this week, you won't get anything. So try and just follow along with me. Watch the videos. Try, like, I've not really done anything, just initializing variables and checking if what I put is what I'm seeing in the log. Those ones are fine. Just follow along with me. But if you can do this, then next week will be easy for both of us. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay. So if there's no other question, we'll call it a night. We'll see you tomorrow.